Sarah Neary, and I'm the Volunteer Program Coordinator at Iowa City Hospice. So my role as the Volunteer Program Coordinator is to recruit new volunteers and then to provide the training for new volunteers, and also continuing education, because once you become an Iowa City volunteer, there's a lot of opportunity for continued learning, and we actually have lots of volunteers that follow a certain track and really develop, because of the education they're getting and then the experience that they get with the patients, a level of expertise. Like, for example, working specifically with dementia patients, working with ALS patients, working with very particular patient populations.
My first exposure to hospice was attending the last days of my mother-in-law back in 2009. And I was very impressed with just the warm, loving care that they shared with us. The other day, as I was driving home from spending some time with a lady, I just felt an overwhelming sense of honor in being able to do this. It meant a lot to the family for someone to be there, and I felt very privileged, and it's a very fulfilling thing to do. So I highly recommend that you look into it. If you want to find something that will take you out of yourself and put yourself into the lives of others, this is a very good thing to do.
I never realized I get more out of it, I think, than I give, because every time I go, it's, somebody's so glad to see you, or, there's one guy that right now that his wife is busy so many times a week, so I come different times, and he knows I'm coming, and oh, what have you been doing, and you get to know people too.
We have programs that where pets become our volunteers. We have a pet therapy program. We have a program called Pet Peace of Mind, which actually uses volunteers to support the pets in patients' lives, because there's a lot of research that documents what we all already know, which is that pets are very healing and therapeutic, and just very important members of the family. So we have volunteer power that supports not only our patients, but the pets in their lives, and that's been a really popular program.
I volunteer at hospice because I so deeply believe in the whole notion of bringing life to days, that at end of life that people are doing things that are meaningful, or we hope they are, and we're comforting them, and having a part of doing that is very, very wonderful.
I started doing the Walk for Dignity, which is the annual fundraiser with hospice, in 2010 after my grandmother had passed away, with the help of hospice so she could be in her home. I was one of the first children in Johnson County to go through the children's bereavement program that hospice offered in the early 80s. So hospice has always been a part of my life, and it's just a way for me to give back and ensure that other families have a positive experience when they're losing their loved one.
We have volunteer programs that work specifically with veterans. Veterans is a portion of the population they make up 25% of all the Americans dying today, and oftentimes because of their potentially traumatic experiences, whether just in the military culture itself or in combat. Some of those traumas can be re-triggered and relived at the end of life, and so it's important. It's an important population for us to know about, and it's important for volunteers who are working with them to have a deep understanding of not only what they're going through at the end of life, but also the sacrifice and commitment that they've made because of their service.
Several years ago, I realized that where my passion was for hospice was when I had the opportunity to volunteer with veterans. And at that time, I was asked to develop some type of program, both for the staff, to educate the staff about what it was like to be a veteran and to work with veterans, and put together this training not only for the staff, but then for new hospice volunteers as well. And the whole concept was to be willing to be straightforward enough with the training so that even if a person was not a veteran but interested in working with veterans, that they would feel comfortable enough in the training and with the knowledge that they were gaining from that to have the opportunity then to work with a veteran and feel comfortable in that setting as well.
One of the services or options we have for our patients is what we call the Legacy Project here. And in a nutshell, that's an opportunity for an individual to tell their story, their life story. And it's not necessarily just in words, but it can be in favorite recipes, it can be in the kinds of things they like to do, and show and tell. And my particular interest in the Legacy Project is in the photographic portion. That is, I am asked to provide photos of the patients and their families. They would not have expected, that they would have an experience like they might be having when we're capturing this moment in time for them. And I think some of the people probably have just simply forgotten that they're remembered and want to be remembered, because so recently much of their life has been one of trying to just slog through day by day and make it as best they can. And yet there is quite a bit to remember about that individual that I think brings out a certain humanity or part of them that otherwise has been hidden for for a long period of time. And as a result, I think we end up mutually having a very rewarding experience. It's something that's unique, I think, in photography. I've taken photographs of many people at special occasions, but there's just something very special and warm and touching about the experience that you have with an individual who is felt forgotten and isolated and totally dependent on so many people to now want to be wanted and captured at that point in time. It's very beautiful.
The bulk of our volunteers who are working directly with patients and families, they do things that I like to call ordinary acts during an extraordinary time. And so sometimes when I'm recruiting and training volunteers, it's really hard to put into words how meaningful the seemingly very simple things that they do become at the end of life for that patient and the family. Because a lot of what our patient care volunteers do is sit, sit with, spend time with, hold hands, just become a smiling face, a hug. Some prepare meals or do housekeeping around the house. Sometimes they're just a new friend for a person living in a nursing home. And again, those things seem like very ordinary things when I'm trying to inspire the volunteers. And they think, well, gosh, I want to do something more than that. It's my job to let them know. And they soon find when they get into their roles that those very simple acts have great meaning and great impact in the lives of our patients and families.